Then Jesus told them a parable about their need to pray always and not to lose heart. He said, "In a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor had respect for people. In that city there was a widow who kept coming to him and saying, 'Grant me justice against my opponent.' For a while he refused, but later he said to himself, 'Though I have no fear of God and no respect for anyone, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will grant her justice, so that she may not wear me out continually coming.' And the Lord said, 'Listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long in helping them? I tell you, he will quickly grant justice to them. And yet, when the Son of Man comes, he will find faith on earth.'" This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. One of my favorite nonprofits is called Heifer Project International. And Heifer International is built on that saying that if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. After World War II, there was a man here in the United States who began to look around, and of course, after World War II, the needs were beyond imagination. And so he began to look around, and he finally began to focus on the Philippines. The Philippines had been an occupied country. The whole infrastructure had collapsed, and people were starving, despite having been reconquered by the Americans. There were hungry, hungry people there. And this man, instead, he knew he could raise the money if he wanted to and take food to the Philippines, but instead, he bought 3 cows, 3 pregnant cows, as a matter of fact. And he named them Faith, Hope, and Charity. And he loaded up these 3 cows, Faith, Hope, and Charity, on a ship, and he shipped them to the Philippines. And he gave those cows to 3 families in a community. And then he taught them how to raise cattle. He gave them these cows on the promise that when those cows had their calves, those families would give the calves to another family in need. And Heifer International has kept that philosophy, it's called passing on the gift, has kept the philosophy of passing on the gift to this very day. So the idea is that when Heifer goes in somewhere, then they will take cattle and teach you how to raise cattle, or they may take sheep and teach you how to raise sheep, or goats, or rabbits, or chickens, even guinea pigs. And now they've been in business so long, they finally figured out, you know what, this is very difficult when there's no soil, and so they've gotten into the tree business as well. But Heifer Project does all kinds of animals, and in my Odessa church, there was a couple there who were determined that they were going to give me a whole cow. But, you know, cows are about $150 through Heifer International, and they couldn't do that in 1 year, so they said, okay, you've got to stay, because we're going to give you sections of cow every Christmas. And so every Christmas I got another section of a cow. That's my favorite kind of gift, are those kinds of mission gifts that not only give to the recipient, but give beyond as well. Heifer Project has long been in Sierra Leone. Now, Sierra Leone is one of those countries that has the dubious distinction of competing with Haiti for being the poorest country in the world. And in 1991, a civil war broke out in Sierra Leone. And the civil war was very, very bad. It was bad enough that Heifer International pulled their personnel out because they feared for their lives. They feared for the lives of their workers getting caught up in that civil war. And that civil war lasted for 11 years. It didn't end until 2002. Now, during that civil war, the Methodist Bishop Joseph Humper, actually stood with another group of clergy there in Sierra Leone and scolded both sides, basically, for using violence in order to settle their differences, which did not go over well with either side, as you might imagine. And Bishop Humper got word one night that the rebels were coming and were going to execute him. And so Bishop Humper of the United Methodist Church was smuggled across the border in the trunk of a car. Now, our General Board of Global Ministries, which is our mission board up in New York, flew into the United States for safety. And they figured, well, he can't go home right now, we might as well use him. And so they made arrangements that he could come to different churches all over the States. And it was my privilege to get to host him at Asbury United Methodist Church in Odessa, Texas, and he preached there. And so Bishop Humper was a guest in our home. And I have never seen anybody who could clean a plate of food like Bishop Joseph Humper of the United Methodist Church. That man would eat everything that was set in front of him, and then he would ask for a piece of bread, and he would clean the plate with spotless by the time they had finished. And the reason, of course, was that back in Sierra Leone, all of those cows and sheep and goats, they weren't being kept alive anymore to produce milk and to breed. They had been slaughtered for food because the infrastructure for feeding people had totally broken down. So all of Heifer's work, all of Heifer International's work, was wiped out. And what Bishop Humper reported was that after they killed the cows and the sheep and the goats and the chickens, then they began on the dogs and the cats. And before that Civil War was over, they were eating the rats. Now, how frustrating do you think it must be for someone like Heifer International, who has been working to feed communities, to teach communities how to raise their own food? How frustrating must it be to have to pull your people out and to receive word that there's nothing left? All that work you've done, nothing left. But evidently, the people of Heifer International must really know how to pray. Because they prayed for those 11 years. And they prayed in year 1, and they prayed in year 2, and they prayed in year 3, and they prayed in year 4, and they prayed in year 5, and they prayed in year 9, and they prayed in year 10, and in year 11, finally, the Civil War came to an end. And Heifer International went back to Sierra Leone and started over. Now, friends, that's praying. That's praying. That's praying continually, as Jesus said. Now, somewhere in your pew, there's a pen or a pencil. Should be right in front of you. And I know this because there are Sunday school classes who take turns checking all those pens and pencils. You need to find one of those because you're going to write down something right now. You put it on your bulletin, if you've got something else you want to write on, but you're going to take this home. And I want you to write it down. So you find that pen or that pencil that's in front of you on the pew. You can write on the bulletin where it is. All right. I want you to write P. And you can do this all in caps. Pretend like you're shouting at yourself. U. S. H. Pray until something happens. Push. That's what the persistent widow in this story was doing. She pushed. She prayed until something happened. She bugged that judge until finally justice was done. And that's what the people of Heifer International understood. They couldn't get into Sierra Leone for 11 years. That didn't mean they stopped praying, and now there's an internship program in Sierra Leone through Heifer International. Because they didn't stop praying. They prayed and they prayed until something happened. Push. You remember if you remember your Greek mythology, the Greek god who brought fire to human beings, you remember, and all the rest of the gods were mad at him. And so his punishment was that he had to push this big, huge boulder up a mountain, And when he got to the top of the mountain, it would roll back down, and he had to go back down and push this mountain, this boulder back up the mountain again. And I know that some of us in our prayer life sometimes feel like that guy. About the time we've just about prayed ourselves, and then that rock rolls right back down. We have to start over. You're beginning to feed people, and then civil war comes. And 11 years later, you have to start over. But Jesus says you don't stop. You push. You pray until something happens. And the prayer list seems to just get longer and longer. Usually at the first of the year, I sort of give up on it. I take everybody off the prayer list just to sort of see who's paying attention. But then that list begins to grow again, because the people who have asked for prayer understand you don't stop praying. You push. You pray until something happens. This morning is World Communion Sunday, and so it is our blessing to have the Reverend Chaplain Mary Maridi here with us, and the part of the choir from Oasis Global Mission. And Mary has been appointed not only to the chaplaincy, but she has also been appointed to do this mission, which means she's raising money a great deal of the time. And that means she has to keep pushing. She prays until something happens. And you and I are in the midst of our stewardship campaign. And the same principle applies. Sometimes you pray by putting something in the offering plate when it comes by. Sometimes you pray by leaving a gift on the altar rail when you come to communion. That's a form of prayer too, although I suppose we could say, give until something happens. That would be gush. But we don't stop. We don't stop when we get discouraged. We don't stop just because nothing seems to be happening. Sometimes you and I cannot see how it is God is working. If you've been on Facebook this morning, I shared a video clip that somebody had put up there onto the church Facebook page. And it shows a cathedral going up in Barcelona, Spain. And they are hoping that the cathedral will be finished in 2026. They started building it in 1898. You see, anybody who undertakes a cathedral understands this is not a 5-year project. The architect for this cathedral is long since dead. But it is his vision that keeps the thing going the way it's supposed to grow. It's because somebody back when prayed, and somebody back when gave, and so a cathedral continues to grow. Yeah, all cathedrals take more than a century, friends. There's no cathedral on the planet that took a short space of time. When a congregation decides they're going to build a cathedral, they know they will not live to see it. Congregations who say we are going to build a cathedral understand they will not be alive when the thing is completed. But they understand about the persistent widow. You pray until something happens. And you pray, and you pray, and you push, and you push, and you push. You pray until something happens. Sometimes the something that happens is not what we had in mind. But that doesn't mean our prayers have been worthless. It doesn't mean our prayers haven't been heard or our prayers haven't been effective. It just means that when we pray, part of what we're doing is trusting in God. Amen. So pray. Pray until something happens. Push and push and push. Dave Crittenden has faith in us too, because he's arranged a prayer walk. And we will walk to what, 9, 10? 9 different buildings. And that one building will then represent all the others in our community that we will pray for. The odds are really good that by, after lunch on Sunday afternoon, none of those buildings will be open. But that doesn't mean that you and I don't pray. We will keep praying. We will push, and we will push, and we will push. Until we can get back into Sierra Leone, until we are in Sierra Leone, until we feed every hungry person in Sierra Leone, and until we feed every hungry person in Grand Prairie, we will push, and we will push, and we will push.
Amen.
We will pray until something happens. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.